Hi everyone, this is Larry again, getting ready to listen to Roger Stone speak at the Citizens for Trump private book signing party here in beautiful Lake Mary, Florida. Attendees will be gathered around this beautiful pool area to listen to Mr. Stone speak, and I will be covering his entire remarks live here in just a moment. So please stand by, and when Mr. Stone starts, we'll come back live again. In the meantime, again, this is Larry.
Hello. Everyone can hear me good? All right, good.
In the meantime, this is Larry. I'm going to sign off here for a moment. And, Mr. Stone is coming out right now.
Please find a good seat, grab a chair or anything you can find. Don't fall in the pool.
So we're going to stay right here, folks. Mr. Stone is about to speak.
All right, if everyone could quiet down for a second, we're going to get started here. Thank you so much for coming to this event organized by Citizens for Trump. Kathleen, we're going to give her a big round of applause. She put this event on. What a beautiful home. Thank you to the homeowners. Where are the homeowners? Raise the hand. Walter? Yes, a little louder. Is that better? Good. So thank you to the homeowner, Walter. We are very appreciative. It's a beautiful night. Thank goodness it's not raining. Citizens for Trump, Kathleen, thank you again so much for organizing this event. It's a great night, and we are so grateful to have Roger Stone, the man who convinced Donald J. Trump to run for president of the United States and win.
We're winning.
Tried again in 2000, thought about it in 2012, and we did it in 2016. Roger has been involved in politics since a very young age, 19, the youngest member on the committee to re-elect the president, CREEP. He helped Dick Nixon get in the White House, and he has had a storied career ever since then, electing Republican presidents, advising people from the local level all the way to the Oval Office. He is a New York Times best-selling author, The Clintons' War on Women, The Man Who Killed Kennedy, The Case Against LBJ, Jeb and the Bush crime family, and of course, The Making of the President 2016, How Donald Trump Orchestrated a Revolution. Everyone, Roger Stone.
Wow, thank you, Jacob. That's brutal. What a great turnout. I can't wait to hear what I have to say. It's great to be back with you. First of all, I think the real tribute, the real thanks go to you, because Donald Trump's election was a grassroots uprising against the established order. It was people like you, some who've never been involved in politics before, and others who had been involved but were turned off because of what they had seen. I mean, I think we have to be honest with ourselves. Although I have deep sentimental attachment to the Republican Party, it's the old Republican Party of Barry Goldwater that I refer to. The party of small government, the party of individual freedom, the party of privacy, the party of a strong national defense. That's the party that I signed up for, and by the time the Republican Party nominated Mitt Romney, well, I had concluded that both parties had morphed into one party, the party of Wall Street, the party of K Street, the Green Party, and I'm not talking about the environment. And frankly, Donald Trump's nomination and his election entailed the hostile takeover of one of the two major parties. And now, like every Republican president in history, whether it is Lincoln or McKinley or Eisenhower or Nixon or Reagan, now the president will remake the party in his image. A party of working people, a party of the middle class, a party that stands up for America first instead of putting America last. So I congratulate all of you for all of your hard work. And I know firsthand that there were many times in September and October that it wasn't easy to be for Donald Trump, because your friends and neighbors were telling you that this election was over and that Hillary Clinton was a sure thing and that our candidate had no chance. Well, we knew better, and you kept the faith, and that's why we are here today. So let me ask for a round of applause for the president, Now, you may remember on election night when Donald Trump said, this election may be over, but the fight is just beginning. And truer words could not have been said. Our candidate for president, who won, never got any honeymoon from the Democrats and the mainstream media. They're still trying to get over the fact that he was elected. And he has been subjected to the worst, most biased, most outrageous media coverage that I've seen in a 40-year career in American politics. It is amazing that CNN still tries to masquerade as a news organization, because they are the epitome of fake news. Now, I experienced this firsthand when Ted Cruz went on CNN and called me an unprintable name, and CNN would afford me no opportunity to respond. And then in the fall, John Podesta, the chairman of the Clinton campaign, went on CNN and said that I had advanced knowledge of the hacking of his email. That's a lie. And that I had advanced knowledge of the releases from WikiLeaks. That's a lie too. A lie that's been repeated by some of the punks on the House the House Intelligence Committee, which I call the House Non-Intelligence Committee. Folks, let me be as clear as I possibly can. The claim that the Russian state colluded with Donald Trump or Trump associates to benefit Trump in the 2016 election is a fraud. It's a hoax. It's a canard. It's a fairy tale. Or as they say in Miami, it's bullshit. There is not one iota of evidence that anyone associated with Donald Trump or Donald Trump himself had any collusion with the Russians for the benefit of winning this election. And I've got to hand it to John Podesta because it was a brilliant maneuver. Accuse Donald Trump and his associates of being too close to Putin to distract from the fact that it's John and Tony Podesta and Bill and Hillary Clinton and their phony foundation that was in Vladimir Putin's pocket. It's the Clintonites who are involved in the uranium deal and the gas deal and the banking deal from the wealthy oligarchs around Vladimir Putin. Yes, they were right. There was a presidential candidate in bed with the Russians, but that candidate was Hillary Clinton.
Lock her up!
We'll get there.
Lock her up.
And what you saw
Let's have a
yesterday
thumbs up for
was
lock
just,
her up.
sadly, the first act of what will be an attempt to remove our president. I am both pleased that we put a special counsel in charge of the Russian inquiry, because I'd like to bring finality to this, but I have grave reservations about Mr. Mueller, very grave reservations. He is an establishment figure. He represents the two-party duopoly that Donald Trump defeated. And having lived through the days of Watergate and lived through the last time the deep state took down a president, let me be clear that the conventional wisdom about Watergate is not the truth. the Woodward and Bernstein, John Dean, Washington Post version of what happened in Watergate is a falsehood. Here's some things you didn't know. First of all, Richard Nixon gains the enmity of the military-industrial complex by ending the war in Vietnam. They weren't for that. By reaching a strategic arms limitation with the Russians. They were opposed to that. And by opening the door to China through a secret back channel, which the president is entitled to do. I don't have to tell you, he also desegregated the public schools, started the Environmental Protection Agency when we had no basic environmental protection, launched the war on cancer, saved the state of Israel in 1973 in the Yom Kippur War. This is a presidency of real accomplishment. We now know that the Watergate burglar team had been infiltrated by the Central Intelligence Agency, and at least 2 members are still on the payroll of the agency, and they are reporting everything to their case officers. We know that Judge John Sirica meets privately and secretly with both Watergate special prosecutors. All 3 of them should have been disbarred for that in the middle of the Watergate burglars trial. And then yesterday, there is an article in the Washington Post by Philip Lacavara, and the headline is, "I prosecuted Richard Nixon, and I know obstruction when I see it, and Trump has committed obstruction." Mr. Lacavara, you met privately with with Judge Sirica in the Watergate case. You obstructed justice. You should have been disbarred then. And guess what? It's still right. I will be filing a complaint to remove him from the bar. We cannot let the John Deans, the man who pushed, planned, covered up, and lied to Richard Nixon for 9 months about the Watergate break-in, go on CNN and malign our president. And let me be very clear. The same exact forces that opposed Nixon and removed him are the same people attempting to remove our president. And I'll tell you why. Because while Donald Trump has no illusions whatsoever about the Russian system, he knows their system is rotten. He knows they oppress gays and Christians and Jews and other minorities. He knows all this. But he favors peace over thermonuclear war. And he understands that we should not rush to war with Russia over Syria. Syria, where Assad finances Hamas, finances Hezbollah, and these terrorist groups, affiliated and propped up by the Russians. And on the other side, you have 100 or more Islamic sub-terrorist groups, the largest of which is ISIS, propped up by the Saudis. And make no mistake about it, folks, the Saudis are not our friends either. They financed the attack on America on 9/11, and it's time for them to pay up. You may know that a bill passed both houses of Congress that would allow the families who lost loved ones in 9/11 to sue the Saudi Arabia state, and Barack Obama vetoed that legislation. So let's be clear. Syria is not worth a drop of American blood or a borrowed American dollar. But Hillary Clinton, you see, she had promised the folks at the Pentagon and out at Langley an expansion of the proxy war. So Donald Trump was not only the law and order candidate, he was not only the candidate of forgotten Americans, he was not only the candidate of the silent majority, but he was the candidate of peace. And that is why they are attempting to remove him. I've lived through this before, and I have seen the systematic effort to destabilize and delegitimize his presidency. Think about this. First, they argued, well, she won the popular vote. Well, that's fine. The Clintons have been through how many presidential elections? If they don't know by now that we elect our presidents by the electoral vote and tune their strategy to it, that's their fault. Then they demanded a recount. Now, this one tickled me particularly because I wrote a story for the Hill newspaper in which I had done some research, and I expressed a concern that these computerized voting machines are very easily hacked and rigged on a local level. They're not interconnected across the country, but at the county and city level, they can most certainly be easily rigged. And I was ripped by the Democrats for this. It was irresponsible. I was undermining our democracy. It was terrible. Well then, fast forward, Trump wins the election. Hillary and Jill Stein file a request for a recount in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. And then the deadline runs, and by a certain date, you have to put the specifics of your complaint, why you were asking for a recount. You know what theirs was? These computerized voting machines are easily hacked and rigged. It shows the hypocrisy and the emptiness of the Democrats. And after that, they wanted to have a special presentation to the Electoral College, remember that? On Russian infiltration into the Trump campaign, of which there was none. General Flynn should never have been fired. General Flynn has not committed any crimes that I know of, other than perhaps the crime of stupidity. Yeah, I wouldn't have taken money from RT, Russian television, which is neither illegal or improper in any way. Perhaps it's bad politics. I think General Flynn is an American hero who's being unfairly maligned when there's still no evidence whatsoever that he broke any laws or did anything inappropriate. And now we hear criticism of the president's son-in-law. Now, I've been a critic of the president's son-in-law. But when they say he opened a back channel to the Russians after the election, my response is, really? So what? You mean like the back channel that Barack Obama had to Iran? Or the back channel that Richard Nixon had to China? That's the prerogative of the President of the United States. Wait a minute, wasn't this investigation supposed to be about Russian collusion with the Trump campaign before the election? You see, they've come up empty-handed. And now they're trying to scatter their shot and find some other new reason. Let me tell you what's coming next. Be aware of this. The president's slipping mentally. He's got Alzheimer's. There's something wrong with him. He's crazy. He has no energy. He's not focused. That's all crap. That's all false. That's all made up. But you're going to hear it from the mainstream media. Why? Because the Russian thing is a dud and they know it. They have nothing. And they don't want to let him focus his full energy on our economy, on trade, on immigration, on making this country great again. They have retarded every effort to focus on an issue agenda, trying to distract us with this extraneous attack on the president, which has no basis in fact. Now, many, many people ask me what I would do in this instance, and I'll tell you. There are crimes involved in the 2016 election. There are serious crimes. It's time for the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, to impanel a grand jury, and let's find out what Susan Rice was doing using American intelligence surveillance for political reasons. And while we're at it, let's find out what the NSA was doing, spying unconstitutionally on hundreds of thousands and perhaps millions of Americans. Let me put it another way. It's time to send a subpoena to Susan Rice and Valerie Jarrett, and yes, Barack Obama himself. What did he know and when did he know it? No person is above the law. He can go to the grand jury and talk about what his people did. This is a violation far greater than Watergate. Watergate was the break-in by private parties for a political purpose, and a number of men went to jail. Well, I say Valerie Jarrett and Susan Rice and Barack Obama can go to jail too. It is proven that they knew in advance about illegal wiretapping and spying on Americans. And I give credit to the people at Circa News who uncovered this. It was only days before Donald Trump became president that the facts became known, and even the super secret FISA court slapped at the Obama administration over these civil liberties violations. Now, yesterday's hearing was entertaining. I always find it funny when a slick Washington lawyer who was paid $6 million to make sure that the criminals at the Lockheed Corporation who got caught cheating and breaking the law in a number of defense contracting matters didn't go to jail. And then I believe Mr. Comey was paid $6 million for that. And then he also made certain that HSBC, the bank that was caught money laundering hundreds of millions of dollars for drug dealers, nobody went to jail in that one either. They paid a fine. Then they took Mr. Comey on his on their board. How much was he paid for that? So when he says Lordy and pulls his forelock, don't give me that country boy crap. You're a slick lawyer from Washington, D.C. and an insider from day one. And if he wants to talk about obstruction and he wants to talk about memos, how about this? The Washington Post reported almost 2 weeks ago that Mr. Comey made the decision to give Hillary Clinton a pass in the email investigation because he saw a memo which had been intercepted by the FBI that was allegedly between Loretta Lynch, the Attorney General for Obama, and someone in the Clinton campaign, in which she told them, don't worry about the email investigation, we're not going to let it get very far. So in other words, Mr. Comey became aware of what he believed was an obstruction of justice, and rather than, as an officer of the court reported, he facilitated the obstruction. He furthered this obstruction. We now know that the memo on which he made the decision turns out to be a forgery. But I don't think that matters. He believed it to be true, therefore he suborned perjury, or I should say obstruction, in the Hillary Clinton email matter. By the way, it would explain his statement that day where he excoriated her over all the laws she had broken, and then announced at the end she wouldn't be prosecuted, when he falsely said a conviction could not be won. Frankly, a first-year, out of law school, first-year attorney could have won that conviction. It was open and shut. She's guilty. Which leads me to the other question. After Watergate, some of you who are old enough to remember how many times they told us over and over again, no person is above the law. No person's above the law. What about Bill and Hillary and their bratty, foul-mouthed, greedy, self-centered, entitled daughter, Chelsea? Are they above the law? Because the Clinton Foundation is not a charity. It's a slush fund for grifters. And it was the vehicle for the facilitation of multi-million-dollar bribes. You said it. Lock them up. Every day that goes by, folks, every day we are one day closer to David Brock being arrested at 5 o'clock in the morning for his tax evasion and his other crimes in the last election. No person is above the law. It is time to have equal justice, and my advice to the president would be very simple. Tell your Justice Department to focus on the illegal abuses of Barack Obama and the people around him and bring them to justice. Tell your Justice Department to focus on the violations of the Clinton Foundation. The IRS would never have allowed the kind of sloppy reporting and financial transactions that happened at the Clinton Foundation of any other foundation on the right. The Clinton Foundation is an ongoing criminal enterprise, and Chelsea Clinton's names are on the filing documents. Time to lock her up, too. So, in conclusion, we are in a fight. I urge you not to believe that because Mr. Comey was so ineffective yesterday, and because, in my opinion, he did not prove his case in terms of obstruction, there was no effort by obstruction. First of all, the President of the United States has the absolute authority to order him to drop the investigation, which he did not do. I think he did tell him to wrap it up, and I think he did express sympathy for General Flynn. That's called loyalty, because General Flynn hasn't done anything wrong that we know of, not legally. So this and the news, which I want to wrap up talking about, and one of my oldest friends, somebody who has forgotten more about politics than I ever knew, Maureen Oliver, who's not a Republican, but she's a good at it. This is the most important thing I want to leave you with. One of the reasons why Donald Trump was able to win, one of the reasons I talk about at length in my book, The Making of the President 2016, which every American citizen must have a copy of, in my opinion, is that we had a vibrant, robust alternative media. See, this was born of a technological advance. The election of Donald Trump would have been impossible in a day in which the three networks you're going to get better investigative reporting at Infowars.com with Alex Jones than you're ever going to get with CNN. Yes, indeed. And it gave rise to Breitbart News and the Daily Caller and Town Hall, as well as Infowars and other robust, vibrant alternative media. Now, what I call the tech left, Twitter, Facebook, Yahoo, Amazon, these big companies are manipulating their algorithms to limit our reach. If you look at Stone Cold Truth or StoneZone.com and look at our sites or at Infowars, the number of people retweeting, the number of people reading our posts is down. If you go to Stone Cold Truth, there's a couple great articles about there telling you all the different techniques they use to start to block our communications. But the most egregious one is deciding that something they disagree with is fake news, taking it down or prohibiting it because it's fake news. I'm not for censorship. I think everybody should have a chance to have their say. See, I think voters can see their way through left-wing bullshit. It doesn't scare me to let them read that stuff because most Americans will see the falseness of it. But they can't argue with us on the basis of the merits. They can't argue with us on the basis of the facts. And therefore, the answer is censorship. They want to silence us. And therefore, you, if you have a Twitter feed, if you have a Facebook feed, consider yourself an army of one. You see something on Infowars that you like, grab the link and repost it. And repost it many times. Put it on your Facebook page. Put it on your Twitter feed. Get it out to your friends and ask them to do the same thing. That's the way around this. If everybody here did it, you will strike a blow against the left-wing tech companies that are trying to end our communications ability and our ability to talk to each other. This is how they plan to defeat our president in 4 years. This is how they intend to try to steal the midterm elections, by silencing your voice. So, folks, you can do a couple things. You can go to Infowars store and buy the products there because anything you spend there goes towards the fight for a free, vibrant social media. Or you can, as I said, find things that you like online, no matter where they are. The Citizens for Trump site, at Infowars, anywhere on the net. If you see something you believe to be compelling that makes the case for Donald Trump, take that link and repost it. And the more times you repost it, the more you will be helping the fight to make America great again. Thank you very much. I appreciate being here. I'd be happy to answer any questions individually, and we can sign some more books.
If anyone has a question, raise your hand and I'll run the microphone to you, or you can just project very loudly. Does anyone have a question?
Question.
Right
Yes,
there,
sir.
Jeff.
You in the T-shirt.
Investigation, is there an investigation that's reopened against Hillary?
Not that I know of at this time. But you may go to chargehillaryclinton.com where there's a petition that you can sign. Our goal is to give 1 million signatures to the President and the Attorney General demanding her prosecution. That's chargehillaryclinton.com. Yes, sir.
Chances Mr. Comey could be criminally prosecuted for illegally leaking his own material, even though it belongs to the FBI.
I'm not sure that the leak is illegal, in all honesty, but it does expose him as a leaker, and I think it had that effect. It is illegal to leak information that is obtained from a government wiretap, particularly a FISA court wiretap, which I think is the case, in my situation. I believe, according to the New York Times on January 20th, that I was under surveillance by the government from June until November looking for Russians. That means they were in my email, in my text messages, listening to my phone calls. They might have found a lot of very interesting stuff, but I'll tell you what they didn't find. They didn't find any Russians. I don't even put Russian dressing on my salad anymore, and I've stopped drinking Russian vodka because I'm afraid of what they might say.
No white Russians or black?
No, none. Another question. Yes, sir.
Lois Lerner, should they reopen that?
Yes, most definitely. There were incredible abuses at the IRS. The IRS was politicized as never before. This was one of the counts in the impeachment against Richard Nixon, that he talked about doing it. Never even did it. He talked about doing it. Again, Lois Lerner should be held culpable for the crime she committed. You see, they committed many crimes, even more as Election Day approached, because they were so certain that Hillary would be in a position to cover it all up as the President of the United States. That's why they felt compelled and free to spy on American citizens in violation of the Constitution, as the NSA clearly did, according to, of all people, the Washington Post. Yes.
Loretta Lynch.
Yes. Well, there's two pieces here that are troubling. First, Comey sees a memo that he thinks is real, in which Loretta Lynch tells somebody in the Clinton campaign not to worry about the email scandal, that's going to be contained. And then Loretta Lynch, according to Mr. Comey, says to him, when you talk about this in public, don't call it an investigation, call it a matter. Well, those two things clearly compelled him to give her a pass. He didn't stand up to the obstruction, he facilitated it. To me, this leaves him not a leg to stand on in his accusations against the president. I was very disappointed that neither Marco Rubio nor Tom Cotton, the two Republicans on the committee who are still awake, asked him about this. It was very disappointing, and I think it's a key point. Yes, sir.
Do you think indeed that Rice and Jarrett and Obama and Hillary will end up in jail at some point in time?
From your mouth to God's ear. This man asked whether Valerie Jarrett and Susan Rice and others would end up in jail, and I said from his mouth to God's ear. Another question. Yes, sir.
How do we confront the globalists in the mainstream media that is relentlessly attacking, whether we like the president to begin with, but the globalists and the left is like mercilessly, as we can see with all the Comey hearings. How do we confront them? Because they've had the gloves off for a long time. It seems like libertarians, independents, the Republicans have been trying to play fair. How do we confront them head on? How do we defend the Constitution? How do we save this country? Because they are going to dismantle it.
I would remind at this point the president of probably the most important of what they call Stone's rules. Attack, attack, attack. And when you're too tired, attack again. You don't win on defense. They have been attacking us and we have been on defense. No, the question is not whether Donald Trump is going to be impeached. The question is whether Barack Obama is going to prison for the obstruction and the wiretapping of America. That's the question. Because no person is above the law, not even him.
He'll make history again?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, I have no confidence in Reince Priebus and a number of the people that are invested in the establishment Republican arm. How best, first of all, Trump's got to get rid of some of them, but how best do we assist in sending Goldwater Republicans to the House and the Senate?
Try this again. Let me put it to you this way. I've had it up to here with Reince Priebus. Nobody gets that joke. Reince Priebus. Look, he may be a perfectly nice fellow, but he's an establishment Republican. He does not understand the Trump revolution. He doesn't understand the people who voted to elect this president. Why is Dina Habib Powell, best friend of Huma Abedin, best friend of Valerie Jarrett, why is she in the Trump White House? Why is our chief economic advisor a liberal Democrat who's a former chairman of Goldman Sachs, a man who hates tax cutting? Why is he the president's chief economic advisor? Did anybody here vote for Jared Kushner? Because I did not. See, I don't think this is a positive influence. I will give Ivanka and Jared this consideration. I think they honestly believe that the advice they're giving the president is in his interest. They're just wrong. if we wanted a continuation of George W. Bush, we would have voted for Jeb. That's not what the American people voted for. And trying to make Trump a universally loved establishment figure is not going to work. I like Donald Trump just the way he is. And those who say he should stop tweeting are out of their minds. The only thing that disappointed me is I wanted him to live tweet during Comey's performance. I think it would have been great. I'm sure his lawyer talked him out of it, but I think it would have been historic. It would have been epic. Because Donald Trump tells it like it is. He's not reading off a poll or a focus group or a round table. He's not reading a memo written by some 25-year-old speechwriter. He speaks from the heart.
Love the Kavefi.
From the gut. He can relate to working class Americans. Even though he has a great Ivy League education and he has fabulous wealth, he still relates and talks like normal people talk. And he would rather have dinner with a bunch of truck drivers than a bunch of Fortune 500 CEOs because he knows they'll be more genuine. See, he's real, and that's what drives them crazy. Mm-hmm. They say, oh, you know, the president, he's slipping. He's, you know, maybe he has early Alzheimer's. Let's be very clear. In Bill Clinton, we had a rapist as president. A man who assaulted as many as 27 individual women. He bit through the upper lips of at least 3 of them that we know of. That's part of his MO. It's a great disarming tactic for rapists. And we also know that it was Hillary Clinton who brutalized these women, who threatened them, who bullied them into silence. It was Hillary who hires the heavy-handed private detectives and the nasty lawyers to silence these women. And you're saying Donald Trump is mentally unfit to be president? Please, give me a break. It's just an example of the double standard we have in the mainstream media. Another question. Yes, sir.
Sorry, one more.
Let's see if we got somebody else before you get a second one. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
Do you think Pizzagate is going to open the American people's eyes to the filth that's in D.C.? I mean, Hildebeest and Billy Boy are into it over their heads.
Well, let me say this. I think that pedophilia and child trafficking
Question was about
are
Pizzagate.
more extensive in this country and in Europe than any of us know. And among certain elite upper classes, it is very commonplace. And I know nothing about Pizzagate, but I do know that after the earthquake in Haiti, there was a government-backed, or I should say government-protected child trafficking ring in which children were swept up from the earthquake and shipped around the globe for the sexual amusement of adults. And that government was put in place by Bill and Hillary Clinton, who then doubled down and stole almost all of the earthquake relief money. So the Bush-Clinton Earthquake Relief Fund, $63 million, vanished into the pockets of the Clintons and the Bushes and their cronies. Yes, I'm hopeful that that Attorney General Sessions said 2 days ago, cracking down on pedophilia will be a specific focus of the Trump Justice Department. Folks, child trafficking has to stop. And we cannot pretend it doesn't exist, because it does. All right, you get the last question.
Sorry. We keep hearing a lot too by the media how all of us here are racist and the president's racist. What are your thoughts on President Trump ending the war on drugs? Kind of dispel that and as well galvanize maybe the minority communities that feel targeted because of the war on drugs.
I think I'm an opponent of the war on drugs. Look, I'm a fervent believer in my mentor, Richard Nixon, who got me into politics. And I think his 2 greatest mistakes are the war on drugs, which has proved to be expensive and completely ineffective. We incarcerate more people in this country than any country on the globe. We're turning out almost no one, and those who we are turning out are hardened criminals. We're rehabilitating no one. Drug abuse is a public health issue. It's not a criminal issue. I'm not talking about drug kingpins. I'm talking about average people who are arrested with small amounts of drugs for their personal use. Locking them up for the rest of their lives makes no sense at all. But I'll tell you where the president could start. Reclassify marijuana from a class 1 drug where it is with heroin and cocaine and LSD to class 2 because, frankly, marijuana is less harmful to the human system than alcohol, which we license and tax by the state. That's a good place to start. All right, so I want to say thank you again, and let's stick together to make America great again. God bless you.
Anyone that would like a photo or any final words, let's go ahead and handle that right now. Mr. Stone has to go in a few minutes, so please head this way if you haven't had a book signed or would like a photo. Thank you again.
And there you have it, fellow patriots. What an amazing speech from a great patriot, Mr. Roger Stone. Hope you enjoyed that. Thank you all for the thumbs up and the hearts of love. Coming to you live from Lake Mary. Again, this is Larry with Citizens for Trump, covering the Roger Stone book signing party here in Lake Mary. I'm going to sign off for now, and we will have some more live streaming later on at a private reception. So thank you all again. Appreciate everybody's support, and we'll talk to you again soon.